Welcome to iTELF Streams, the podcast that delves into the remarkable journey of visionary entrepreneurs, offering profound insights into their challenges, triumphs, and the strategies that shaped their success. Today, I have the honor of hosting Shiva Viswanathan, founder, CMO, and design head at Setanet, co founder of Leap Onboard, and director at DesignUp. With an illustrious career spanning over 3 decades in brand strategy, UX, and creative entrepreneurship, Shiva has consistently led the charge in crafting transformative digital experiences and scaling innovative ventures in the global market. Without any further ado, let's welcome Shiva for today's episode.
Hello, sir. Hope you're having a good day.
Hi, Shreya. Thank you for having me over.
So, sir, can we directly jump to the questions now?
Please,
That's
please do. Please do.
so, sir, talking about the inception of the creative venture, what has inspired you to start this creative venture of yours? And how did you exactly identify the niche or the market gaps to begin with?
So I think I have ran 3 ventures by myself out of it. 2 of them can be called as creative ventures, give or take, right? Like, so Catnate, the one I'm doing right now, is not necessarily a creative venture. It's a product company, which has got a design team in it. But I think I should talk first about the company called Apparatus, which I had actually started in 2003. Um, So the biggest inspiration for doing what I did in Apparatus was the fact that there was a huge gap in the market that kind of connects what I would call as the brand and the digital experiences. So I would personally call it brand experiences. So that gap was phenomenal. So I had this fabulous, fortunate situation of working in London with a pretty large creative powerhouse for a while. And that helped me kind of formulate a method in which I can provide solutions to people who are looking at experiences. At that point of time, user experience as a concept was very nascent. Brand has been for a while, but nobody connected the idea of brand and user experience together. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. So the inspiration is about the fact that we had a concept that is probably new and we can take it home. And the second factor, there was nobody else in the market.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So, sir, as you said that the identification of niche, the market gaps, and everything, the analysis part that you did, how important it is for an entrepreneur to be exactly explicit with all the vision and missions. Because at the start of a journey, people are not exactly aware of the destinations or what are the approaches or the results that they want. So, how important did that part play in your journey?
So Shreya, I've been in the market, just for a correction, I've been in the market for 30 years. It's 3 decades, not 2 decades.
Oh,
Right.
my bad, sir.
So 20 years back is when I started this company called Apparatus. I was pretty nascent to starting a business at that point of time. That's the first big business I was actually starting. Not even big. It was the first business I was actually starting. Given that, I think it is important to for me to actually understand my passion first before I actually say what is missing in the market. So, vision and mission as a definition, I didn't do it at all. I didn't have the time or the resources or the foresight to do that kind of a stuff. Lots of people helped me kind of put this stuff together, but still I didn't have the foresight to actually do that. But what I did surely was to check on myself whether two things. One, whether I had the passion to actually start and sustain something like this. And second is that was I persistent enough to hang on to it till I actually saw either a clear success or a clear failure, which is okay. Either one is okay. But at some point of time, you should know how to decide that this is a success or a failure. And if you want to walk off, you should know how to walk off. If it's a success, you should know how to stay on and what you do next with it. Um, so I was kind of clear about that, or rather, I was clear that I will do something like that rather than saying that I had a vision and a mission. I probably did not.
Very well, sir. So, speaking about the two powerhouses, the two powerful weapons that you had, the passion as well as the persistence. So, how did these play a crucial role in, or like tackling up with all the challenges that came to your path? And what were the initial challenges that you faced after becoming the entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, I've heard many creative doyens talk about this. I think the biggest problem in running a creative entrepreneurship or a company is to keep the size down, not scale up. It's strange, but that's the most important thing. Like people work in
I may
smaller.
interrupt. This is the first time I'm hearing about like an entrepreneur talking about keeping it like a low scale business rather than the expansion part.
Yeah, no,
So
there is an expansion to it. Let me explain you how the expansion really works, right? So I think it's important to understand that between 5 and 10 people is when a creative pod of a bunch of people who are work optimally. The communication is brilliant. You can actually understand one another very well because you got to understand that creativity doesn't have a formula. Um, while you're working with frameworks that are large, the ideas and the concepts come from what you have in your head. Unless you have a perfect connection and a communication with your co-workers, it's very, very difficult to kind of make it a fruitful, rather fruition it, take it out and create something worthwhile out of it. So there are three parts to any creative solutions. There is concepts, there's tactics, there is skills, right? So you've got to kind of understand that some people are better with tactics, some people are better with concepts, some people are good with skills. So you got to actually create those pods based on that. The initial challenge has always been to put a good team together. Either you didn't have the money or you didn't have the kind of people who can actually make a good team. But then I pride myself in being a part of some of the most amazing teams, whether I made them or I was a part of them. I pride myself doing that. That's challenge number one. And the second challenge is everybody knows the second challenge, money. And it's a key resource, and you know that there is a so technically services company doesn't have a value of death. You kind of run, you peak, you go. Typically a product company goes through a valley of death, and then you got to pump a lot of money to actually get it back into the upper curve. Creative services companies do not have that much, but there is a plateau. At one point of time you'll reach and you'll flat out on a plateau. And to actually look at bettering, plateau is not in terms of the size, probably in terms of the earnings, number one, but most importantly, from the creative possibilities and the concepts that you're bringing in. Your solutions don't go better. You kind of get used to a certain method of doing things. You're using the same frameworks again and again. And that needs a lot of resources to push yourself up. Probably some kind of a training, education, exposure to events and other stuff that's happening all over the world. Um, probably partnerships and so on and so forth. That's a second challenge. There is this fabulous concept in Sanskrit called Kupa Manduka, which is about frogs in the well. The biggest problem with boutique companies that are creative services company, we become frogs in the well, and we need to learn to look outside, which takes effort, time, and money. I think that's the second challenge.
absolutely, sir. So talking about the second challenge, how was that? What were the ways that you overcome this challenge of money? What were the fundings? How was the whole process of acquiring fundings? Or the way you created wealth and sort of put it into your own business?
Yeah, so I think the best part about starting my own company in the beginning was that the clients helped me start the company. So basically, a couple of them said, "You start a company, we'll be your first client." So that was easy. So at the base level, we didn't have to bother about month on month, right? But once it kind of scaled to a certain level, we had to balance between the resources that we brought in and the kind of money that we earned, and that was important too. And what you need in those kind of circumstances is not funding. You need bridge. you constantly need bridge to kind of keep going, right? So fortunately, one of the directors of my company bridged us when it came, and of course, we repaid back whenever we had the money, and that bridge helped us a lot to kind of scale substantially as we grew beyond a certain point. We never looked for institutional funding. First of all, like now or like earlier, I think institutional funding doesn't really work for services companies because the valuation for services companies is pretty low. And we kind of know it. And unless the merging slash acquiring company or the institutional fund sees a real value in what you bring to the table and a scale, which is never possible in a services company, they are not going to put in money into it. So the interesting thing that happened was that we were pretty early for what we were doing. I mean, 2003, the UX was a new term. Nobody knew what UX was. Um, and brand and design was comparatively a new term. We were early in the market. We were probably the first boutique in Bangalore and probably one of the few boutiques in India at that point of time doing user experience and brand together. So that helped us a lot because we actually got the best of clientele and we could kind of fund ourselves with some amount of bridge. We could keep ourselves going till we got found in 2013 by a creative conglomerate who bought us out.
Great, sir. So, since I am from the IT MBA college, so this question is sort of a mandate for us that how has technology played an important role in scaling your creative business? And then, what emerging trends have you used, or what are the innovations that your team and you especially have been working forward in order to uplift the business or its expansion, or rather its sustainability as well?
So in apparatus, the earlier company that I ran, we always believed in not resisting change. So we were working as the front end for technology, which essentially meant people actually did a whole bunch of technology innovations, and we were creating the interaction, user interaction side of it, or user experience side of it, which essentially meant you constantly had to be on par with what's happening outside in the market, and you had to kind of cruise that line very well. Otherwise, you get left behind. You do not know what to actually define as a solution. The new company that I'm a part of, or rather I'm a co-founder in, which is Catenate, is a technology company. We are an AI company doing two products, which are top notch in terms of what it does. This is not Gen AI. This actually does way more than that, right? Like when you get time, you can take a look at it. The two products, product number one is called Mira Mira, which is actually helps children find what they want to do in their future. So it's for the American and the Canadian market. And the product two is about talent acquisition. It's about how do you acquire talent. It's based on the same AI model at the back, and that's what we have, and that's what we run. Technology has been essential part of the DNA of whatever I've been working on, whether it's whether it's tools that we use to actually create the solutions that we do, or whether we our solutions themselves, how they've got to sit with other technology or how they've got to work over technology. So one of my personal pet right now I'm working on is using Gen AI as a part of larger business workflows in creativity, and basically take that fear of everybody worrying that it'll take your job. It won't take your job. So that's something that I have been evangelizing more than working on everywhere I go. So that's my take on technology. I've been pro tech in every possible way, and that's how the last 30 years has been. So no difference.
So, sir, you talked about being at par with every shift and change in technology that is happening. So, how do you adapt to the changing market trends without losing the unique identity that your brand has? Also, can you share any small instant or any situation where you had to pivot or you had to innovate, and what did you choose and why between these?
Um, yeah. So bizarrely, we work in the kind of intersection of social sciences and technology. It's human sciences and technology, right? Most of the work is based on intent and behavior of human beings and how technology kind of influences that. I think so it's easier to actually understand. Technology has never been a tricky thing, so it's easier to kind of understand and go with technology. But when you put complexity along with it, which is actually understanding human beings using that technology, is when the complexity arises. And that's exactly where we operate. So there has been instances we thought we were the smartest ones and created like fancy solutions that never worked because human beings thought of solutions which are way better than that. Um, you know, so one of the stuff that we have done is for a, a global computer selling company, and we actually had to create a backend for configuring a computer. So typically, you will call a 1-800 number, somebody will pick it up, and you will tell them, listen, I want so much hard disk, so much RAM, and they'll actually construct that quote for you for X number of computers. It could be like this is typically for enterprises. So there could be 30 computers at a go. And for those 30 computers, they'll compute it. So in the process, we actually did this fancy form filling method of doing the stuff where you can actually click, click, click. And we actually went to the place where they are taking the calls and realized nobody's using the mouse. Nobody's actually doing that stuff. People use tab keys on the number pad. That's all they use because everybody knows the code for every product that they have in their head. They don't need to actually use the mouse and they don't need to refer anything. So everybody hit tab and hit the number pad for the number, tab and hit the number pad for the number, and kept moving from one place to the other. So technically, what we thought was a solution is a humongous failure. But what we always believed is that be fast to fail so that we can innovate right behind it, right? So we were actually appreciative of the fact that we failed early. And so we actually took the stuff back and created a piece of stuff that worked for that kind of an intent and behavior.
Okay, so I know we have depth, we are in very much depth of the technology side. So let me ask you a very trending question these days, which is also an inevitable aspect, since all the business right now is only focused on the sustainable development and also the sustaining of the business in terms of the reputation, technology, and every trend that is happening. So how do you ensure the sustainable growth while staying true to the core of the values of your own ventures?
Yeah, like I told you earlier, I mean, this is the first time I'm doing a product company. Actually, till now I've been doing services companies. Services companies, the problem was the other way around. How do you not grow? But how do you grow in money and not necessarily in people? But having said that, there is a tack to a service company growing. So you don't create a large place with extremely big number of people, but you create pods of sort that work almost like smaller boutiques in a smart way, which is actually multiplying that small unit of boutique, which can actually go one after the other. And then together, when you actually assimilate it, it's pretty decent growth. That's services. But in product, ability to sustain, see, we live in a bizarre world with product, right? Product um, kind of means that we need to actually put something together based on our innovation, our ideation, the people and the use cases that will be there. Then you build a kind of a partial portfolio, partial prototype, and then you actually make a technology based, uh, a technology integration to the prototype and create a minimum viable product that you can take out to probable institutions. It could be institutions, it could be basics, pre-series A kind of could be angels to pre-series A to that kind of a funding. The idea is to always be highly explanatory. So which essentially means you paint an authentic, clear picture of where you are at with the product rather than unnecessarily hyping it up. One of two things that we have believed, and it worked for us is one is keep as authentic as you can so that you will get the right kind of funding at the right time. And the second thing is um, that do not change features based on few feedback. Always test it to a larger group before you change the stuff. Because typically the funders try to influence your product in many ways by actually giving you feedback, which can potentially change or add or modify or delete a certain feature. I would rather that you believe your gut and believe the users rather than believing the funding. So these two things have kind of kept us balanced in a way because we have been true to the product, and but we've been realistic and authentic to the investors too. So that has worked in the long run.
So, sir, my next question is actually being true to the company, to the investors, and to all the stakeholders itself. So, in the creative space, we all know the competition is very fierce. Like there's cutthroat competition in today's whole era. Wherever you see, there's no area that just doesn't have any competition. So, how do you differentiate between the business and stay ahead, keeping this competition in mind and staying true to all the aspects?
So, like I'm going back to my earlier answer, right? I think creative services are broken down into three parts: the concepts, tactic, and skills. The maximum number of competition lies in skills, where people are executing. That's the execution part of it. The next level is a tactics. Very little of it is in concepts. Concepts is about ability to solution the stuff, ability to build a solution that's better, which is kind of a system thinking method of doing it. Like you think about multiple parameters, how does it actually affect that product that you're trying to build, and to create that concept right. Very, very few companies do it correct, whether it's boutiques or product companies, or very few companies do it right. So our differentiation has always been at that, but the competition has always been at the tactic and skills because that brings you scale. Concepts brings you value. So that's the entire play. Where do you want to play? If you want to play in scale, it's down. If you want to play in value, it's higher. So I would say we've always been wanting to play in value.
Absolutely, sir. Maybe that's the reason of the success and how your venture is growing day by day. So, sir, one last question for this long segment that we had is what advice would you like to give to these aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to build and scale their own businesses, or especially the creative ventures rather that they are in?
Yeah, I think like team. You got to build a team that's got the right balance between the concept, tactic, and skills again. The second aspect, which is a big aspect in creativity, is delivery. Understand the idea of closure of otherwise creative people tend to, including me, I used to, now I try to kind of define it in a certain way. We tend to keep on working on something for a long time when we do not know what is a closure for a product or a project or even a piece of work that we are doing. So have a definite idea of what is the closure for a project, product, whatever you're working on. So like define that very well before you even start. So like if you're a creative services company, I would say create this as a make this a co-creation between you and your client, where you define what is the end goal very clearly, so that you're on the same page about what the expectation is and what the delivery is going to be. Um, the other important stuff that we need to kind of think about is the fact that when you actually go towards a delivery, there are two things that is important. One is be responsive. When people ask questions, send you a mail, respond as soon as you can. Even if you say that, listen, I will do it eventually, send a mail saying I will do it eventually. That is something that we believe in. The second thing is be responsible. So those are slightly different, but makes a lot of change. And so responsive is to actually get back to people and put them at ease in terms of what they will get in the delivery. Responsible is make sure that they get it eventually and get it in a way that is that you're proud of, not necessarily just delivered, but you're proud of. And that's what differentiates your company better. And that's what makes your company an organization that is stands out from the rest of the crowd. So summing it up, I would actually say focus on solutioning, which is actually the conceptual nature of what we do. And of course, have good tactical and skill people who are working on it. Second thing is focus on delivery, and delivery from the perspective of how do you actually define what the product delivery has got to be and get onto the same page with the client. So it includes a lot of communication skills and capabilities that you have. Processes, frameworks, and communication skills help a lot. Creative services need a lot of processes, unlike people think. It needs processes. And the last one is be responsible. Be responsible creates a huge difference in the market for what you do. Because I know people who actually take up a project or run away or vanish and so on. Not good.
There were quite a few cases in the Shark Tank judges also complaining about the same thing. People, they're basically parties they invested in not being very responsive, not being very respectful to them. So yeah, I guess all these tips and key points were so crucial and wholesome for any aspiring entrepreneur. So before wrapping up, we have prepared a short rapid fire questionnaire round. If you are, shall we
Sure.
start?
Let's go for it.
So what's the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning?
Oh, I do three things when I wake up in the morning. Um, I There is an online crossword that I'm so used to. I've got to finish the crossword. I even before getting from bed. So I need to finish the crossword puzzle in the morning. Apparently, it's going to keep my mental health in a good condition in the long time. So I've been trying to do that for a while. So that's what I do first. Um, the second thing that I do is coffee, which I can't survive without in the morning. And my coffee is I'm a snob when it comes to coffee. So I've got to get the right kind of coffee, brew it the right way. It's almost like a ritual. And that ritual, silently, it's only me doing the coffee pretty early in the morning. It's a ritual that I need to actually uh, do. And I have the coffee in complete silence. That's the third piece. I need some silence in the morning. It's very, very difficult for me to kind of think and set the day up further if I don't get enough silence in the morning. So those are the three things that I do in the morning as soon as I wake up.
So that like actually concludes you're a morning person, but with the coffee,
Yeah,
essentially with the
that's yeah.
coffee. Yeah. So the next one will be describe. Can you describe your entrepreneurial journey with just one word?
Actually, I think it is three words. Sorry, two words, which I've been kind of thinking of. It's a it's lonely. You got to understand it's lonely. You got to wake up to the fact that entrepreneurship is a lonely game. It's a lonely game you play. So it's lonely with a great amount of gratification. So eventually, it's a great amount of gratification. It's lonely because there are a few things that you cannot share. It's demotivating for others, and you got to keep it within you. And the gratifications, when it comes, that is shareable. That is something that is brilliant. And most often, it is the best thing to share with people. So, yeah, those are the two things.
Any book that every entrepreneur, like, or the aspiring entrepreneur should read? Have a look at.
I never believed in business or self-help books. One of the stuff that, as a creative entrepreneur, that's helped me a hell of a lot is um, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. It's like my Bible. The reason, and it's got nothing to do with running a business, but it's got a lot to do with like how you can construct something that is multi-layered, right? It's got the right method of juxtaposition. It's got politics. It's got humanity. It's got social uh, sciences and social situations that makes you question this stuff. So I would say 100 Years of Solitude. 100 Years of Solitude is the best book for people to read and understand Marcus. And I think he's a genius.
Basically a great mix of all humanities, arts, and sciences all together.
Yeah.
So, sir, what is your favorite productivity app or tool apart from the crosswords? Because we discussed that to use at your
Yeah.
laptop.
Yeah. No, productivity tool wise, I actually trust I've been using Calendly for a long time. I run on my Calendly. That's been kind of working out pretty good for me. I don't use anything other than that. Uh, I've got a Mac environment. If I do something in, one of the devices gets updated in the other, so it's simpler. But Calendly is one thing which I've got four email IDs. It kind of consolidates that very well, and a single place where people can pick, um, yeah, can pick time, and which is right now that's all I'm doing. Right, most often the only thing that I'm trying to negotiate around is how people utilize my time. So it's Calendly.
Sir, the next one is if you could have dinner with one entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would you choose?
One entrepreneur who is dead or
Alive.
alive. I mean, actually, I will choose anybody in Pentagram. Uh, any designer who actually has been a part of Pentagram. I mean, Paula Scher would be fantastic. Paula Scher has been in Pentagram. It's not because that she's an entrepreneur, but it's because she's such a doyen in what she does. It's like one of the stuff that she's told Citibank when Citibank, she actually drew the Citibank logo on a napkin. And the Citibank asked, is this it? So, meaning we are paying you for this. So she said it took me 30 years to actually draw that in 30 seconds. So, and you got to have a lot of courage and, of course, a phenomenal amount of conceptual ability, skill, and courage to actually say and do something like that. So, yeah, I mean, any day. If you can fix me a dinner with Paula Scher, please do.
Sure, sir. So one lesson, the valuable lesson that your failure has taught you, which has been there with you since then.
Do not resist change. Don't ever resist change. I think that's the worst thing we do, right? Like first thing we do is to actually say, no, that's new. I mean, let's actually try out. But honestly, if you don't resist change, or rather look forward to it and see how you can integrate that change into what you do, helps hell of a lot. So failure is nothing but a change, a devastating change at that. You should know how to embrace it.
Basically, a stepping stone for all the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you can say that.
So, sir, any go-to place or activity when you are free or when you want to like be away from your work?
I just work out. I love solo sports rather than group. I play squash and I work out. That's all I do. And that gives me, yeah, that keeps me healthy too, I guess.
Then lastly, I would like to ask, what's your personal motto or mantra that keeps you going every day?
Three things. Again, it's be diligent, sorry, be curious, be diligent, be human. Uh, and there is a reason for it. Be curious because I think the only thing that actually drives us is that curiosity, wanting to know where you can go, what can you do with what else. Is a great curiosity thing that pushes us forward. And in a way, like where I'm sitting in on the other side of, I'm 56, going to be 57 soon. At that place, it, it keeps you energized, enthusiastic. That is the first part, curiosity. Second is diligence. The problem is everybody, like we fall back to mediocrity if you don't look at the details and if you're not diligent enough. And unfortunately, today's world is going there. Anything from a small, spelling mistake in anything that you write, even a short note that you write, to something that you deliver somewhere with a ghastly mistake. It's all about you not being diligent, and that is not good. So unknowingly, if you've done something, it's fine. But knowingly, if you push it aside, it's worse. So that is diligence. And the third one is human, because I think the future is all about social sciences. We got to hold our hands and survive. There is somebody who famously said that nobody gets out of here alive. So might as well hold our hands and do something worthwhile with it, right? So those are the three things that inspire me a hell of a lot.
Absolutely perfect, sir. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights throughout this conversation. It's been wholesome and so much inspiring. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Satan. Thanks.
I'd like to thank everybody, all the listeners, for being there with us joining today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shreya. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir.